Well, my book, Beauty, A Quick Immersion, has just been published by Tibadabo Press, which is located in Barcelona and New York. I believe it's supposed to be simultaneously published in Spanish. I haven't seen the Spanish. I just got this in the mail an hour ago. Okay, so it's, I guess this is a series by this press that's in competition with the very short introduction series from Oxford, which has been quite successful, I gather, as a publishing venture from an academic press. And that series already has a beauty book in it by Roger Scruton, the famous philosopher and thinker and conservative. This is a little more radical, perhaps, in various senses. I guess I've been really writing about and thinking about beauty for decades. And, you know, I guess I tried to compress all that into a readable situation here. I do think it's kind of readable. You know what I mean? Like it's pretty quick. Less than 40,000 words. There are some illustrations too. I'm not hitting them though. Maryland, etc. Okay, so I mean, one thing I say is I'm doing here. I'm standing in front of a half-finished painting by my partner Jane Irish. I mean, in a way, it's a little hard to tell what she's doing here because it needs some more work. But she's working in a way that uses Renaissance and Baroque art to actually show something about the brutality and violence of Western culture and to give a commentary on colonialism and stuff like this, among other things. And I guess maybe in some ways this shows beauty, the double-edged sword. Beauty as one of the most central reasons to value being alive. I feel that way myself. And then again, beauty as an agent of oppression in various ways. You know, feminist critiques, actually environmental aesthetics as well. Racial analyses of beauty, okay? And all of that is discussed in here. There's 3 chapters, as well as a conclusion, a preface and a conclusion. The first chapter gives a taxonomy of historical theories of beauty. So just a way of trying to organize the possibilities for giving a theory or a definition of this incredibly difficult term. So, for example, a kind of idealistic view that we might associate with Plato, what I call the classical view that tends to think of beauty in terms of mathematical ratios, such as the golden section, and a number of other theories, as well as some non-Western material, which runs throughout this entire book. You know, for example, the Japanese conception of wabi-sabi, or roughness, imperfection, which is kind of the opposite of the idealized theory of Plato, for example. So I think that might be useful. In other words, just to take like the whole kind of history of human reflection on beauty and try to say, well, they tend to fall into these 5 categories. I guess I originally developed that taxonomy for my Stanford Encyclopedia article on beauty, which I've recently revised, partly in line with the work I did here. For one thing, to emphasize the political problems of beauty a little more directly. Definitely more directly than I did in my book, 6 Names of Beauty, which was, I think, 2006. I don't know. Well, okay, so and then the second chapter does talk about the politics of beauty, as well as about sublimity and some related concepts. Sublimity being a conception of power, in a way, the traditional foil of beauty in Kant, for instance. And hopefully there's a lot of popular culture and examples you can grab onto, as well as classic sort of art historical examples as well. And the third chapter deals with the classic question of whether beauty is subjective, objective, or cultural. You know, objectivism, subjectivism, or cultural relativism. Those seem to be the options. And I guess if I think that there's one thing that this book does that would be worthwhile in sort of the history of reflection on beauty, I mean, this is supposed to be a summary, not an argument. But I do try to show that the opposition between the idea that beauty is subjective, perhaps a matter of pleasure, the view that beauty is objective, for example, is the golden section or the form of the good or something, and cultural relativism of the sort developed especially in 20th century anthropology, all have an element of truth, and they're not necessarily opposed to each other. The beautiful object is, well, okay, so I grapple with that and try to answer it, actually. And then the very conclusion is a claim based on the previous discussions that beauty is a real quality of the world, even though it has a subjective aspect. But then again, subjects are in the world, and their experiences are in the world, and their brains are in the world, okay? And they're responding to stuff that's outside their brains, really, if they're having an experience of beauty. Well, okay, so there's the little bit of art beauty, unfinished, perhaps. This is Jane Irish's studio here at our house in York Springs, Pennsylvania. I thought maybe I'd do a little natural beauty, too. Out here. There's the studio. Alrighty. What a beautiful spring day. Okay, what is it, April 24th? Something along those lines. I should have brought the stand out here too, but I didn't. All right, we're out here by the Lattimore Creek. All right, maybe hear some bird song and stuff like that, appropriate to the spring. I'll just read a couple real brief passages. I'm not going to keep you too long. Here's the very start. Beauty is a central dimension of human experience, I hope, but it is a famously elusive concept. We might think of the experience of beauty in a first sketch as being delighted and transported, alerted and altered by the way something looks, the way it sounds, the way it smells or feels. Many people devote their lives to beauty in some dimension, gardening, decorating and tending their homes, for example, but also making music, or painting, or throwing clay, or posting images to Instagram. The experience of beauty, though it can be used in various ways and sought out for various reasons, has intrinsic value. We would seek such experiences even if they did not yield otherwise useful outcomes, though they often do. They often yield useless and even harmful outcomes as well. A person who has not been rapt by a sunset, a mountain range, a flower, a human body, or for that matter by works of human art, craft, design, melody, movement, has missed central things of value. I myself have been tempted to think that experiences of beauty are the point of this whole exercise of being alive as a human being. I guess I said that already. Though I'm not pressuring anyone to agree with me. here are some of the things with regard to which I've had intense experiences of beauty. Now, if you were producing such a list, what would be on it? Just a quick list of beautiful things. My mother's face, a smooth rose quartz pebble, palm-sized, that I found in Rock Creek Park in 1974 in D.C., and later Suiseki landscape stones, a Japanese art form which I pursued as a hobby. Vermeer's Girl in a Red Hat, which I've been visiting in the National Gallery in Washington, D.C. Since around the same time, early 70s. The Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia and the Shenandoah Valley beyond. Romantic partners, their bodies, and something more, or anyway else. I'm not going to publish a list or a set of comparisons. Certain babies. Lucinda Williams singing Sweet Old World, and Billie Holiday singing You Go to My Head. Veronica Lake and Angelina Jolie, frankly. A church on the island of Burano, near Venice, with its leaning bell tower. The Himalayas near Kathmandu, but also the green rolling hills defined in rows of apple trees around where I live now in central Pennsylvania. So, and then I quote Keats, a thing of beauty is a joy forever, from Endymion. But then I immediately go like, problems arise, okay? Who counts as beautiful and whose opinion or taste about what's beautiful counts? These are vexed and actually devastating political questions, which I do discuss. But, okay, and maybe I'll just read a little bit of the conclusion as well. We might call this account, my account that I developed, sketch, really, here, rather than a full dress argument for it, which I would do if someone wanted to write me a contract for full dress theory of beauty. We might call this account that I'm going to try to provide the situational account of beauty. Recall Yanagi. Well, I quoted him earlier. A beautiful artifact may be defined. This is Suetsu Yanagi, the Japanese philosopher of craft from the mid-20th century. A beautiful artifact may be defined as one that reposes peacefully where it aspires to be. Or the concept of hos-ho from the Diné or Navajo. Beauty as a healthy and harmonious whole system in which people and things are co-implicated. It's not only what the thing intrinsically is, and it's not only the pleasure it yields in someone's head. It's the place the object takes up in certain situations, how it's placed as well as what it is, the garden as well as the flower, the forest as well as the tree, the planet as well as the mountain. That is, what makes something beautiful is that it enters into situations of certain sorts, situations in the world encompassing things and social persons and the environments in which they are co-embedded. All right, well, that's a real rough sketch of my account of beauty. And this is the Lattimore Creek, or a little bit of it, a little branch of it. I can't get out of the way. That's because I'm holding the computer. Anyway, check out my book. It's kind of nice, compact, only in paper. It's reasonably priced, which I'm really happy to say, because that's not been true of all my books with academic presses. Anyway, have a good spring. I'll try to too. By the way, the painter Jane Irish also made this shirt from fabric that we got in Madrid. All right, later on.